Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this evening. This is the City Council meeting and public hearing for March 3rd, 2025. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order and note for the record that all members of council are present and accounted for, except for Councilman Brady, who will not be able to join us this evening. As always, we begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you're willing and able, please stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the first item up on our agenda this evening is the work session item, and this is the North Point Development Framework Plan, presentation by Star White House. Mr. Lang, I believe you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Can everyone see the screen? It's not up here, but you have hard copies as well, and if there's any technological difficulties. I want to start by saying thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. My name is Jacob Lang. I'm a partner with Star White House Landscape Architects and Planners. We're the lead consultant on the North Point Development Framework Plan. What I'll do today is spend about 15 minutes summarizing a much broader report that we've been working on over the last 7 to 8 months alongside Ms. Cook and her team at Community Development. I'll go through the framework plan at large, spend some time digging into the three main components of it: streets, open space, development typologies, and then I'll conclude with a couple test fits of actual areas within the district where we explore how these principles and how these components might be implemented over time.
Great.
So to start with the framework plan here, we're not coming before you today to ask for any land use changes or zoning changes. It's really a tool that has two primary functions. One, hopefully to encourage investment and excitement from the development community, and then two, a guideline for public policy within the district and also something for the city to weigh development proposals that come online against to ensure that the broader infrastructural and connectivity goals can be met with individual development proposals. The three sort of guiding principles that we've used as we've developed this really is creating a North Point that is walkable, green, and vibrant. Walkable, green, and vibrant. I repeat those not for effect, and I'm going to use those three principles to really go through the framework plan and each of the individual components, starting with walkable. So I direct your attention to the orange lines on the plan here. These are the streets that we have laid out across the district. So when we talk about walkable, we're talking about human scale development. We're talking about human, pedestrian, bicycle, and multimodal comfort throughout the district. We are not talking about eliminating roads. Quite the contrary, as development occurs, more traffic occurs. So in fact, we're talking about bolstering the roads and creating a open network, fine-grained system, in this case a grid, so that we have greater redundancy to spread that traffic out and introduce multiple connections from point A to point B, irrespective of where point A and point B might be within anybody's daily travel. And then the second thing we're doing with the street network is exploring additional connections into and out of the district. So you'll see two bridge connections shown over Georgia 400. You'll see an additional bridge connection over Big Creek to the south. And these are big, transformative, expensive gestures to draw on the page. And so those are really, as the development occurs within the district itself, you might start to look at these more transformative moves as traffic volumes increase, congestion may take place. So green, what we talk about when we say green is really open space. So there's three components of the open space. One is the streets themselves and how we design those streets. So really thinking of those as green corridors that not only move cars, but that have shared use paths. They have 6-foot vegetated buffers that can accommodate green infrastructure and trees, so they're really acting themselves as linear parks. The second piece is trails. So utilizing existing trails, we have the Big Creek Greenway, we have the informal trail along Georgia 400, circumnavigating the entire district, so we have greater connectivity for bikes and micro-mobility, kind of that last mile connectivity. And then finally, expanded open spaces, which we're calling parks here, and how we can utilize those to catalyze development, to increase new development edges that will increase land use value and encourage the types of human scale development and vibrant development you want to see. And then finally, vibrant. So when we talk about vibrancy, it's not only cultural vibrancy, but it's economic vibrancy. And so within these leftover spaces that the street framework and open space network create, what happens in there and how can it sort of advance the goals of the city, but also the private developers who are coming to the table and investing in North Point District. So I'm going to quickly go through kind of the three components, starting with streets here. For this study, we developed 4 street typologies and 2 alley typologies. What's shown here is the typical street, so this is the most prevalent amongst them. In all of them, we are approaching them with a multimodal perspective, so moving cars, but also moving people, bicycles, moving rainwater, and moving habitat through the enhanced plant material there. So within the typical, pretty standard 2 10-foot travel lanes in both directions. On one side, we have a 12-foot shared use path. This is going to be for all of the modes of travel, pedestrians and bikes, whereas on the other side, we scale that down to an 8-foot sidewalk, pedestrian only, and with that additional space can incorporate some parallel parking in there to enhance the amount of parking, but also to provide a little bit extra buffer between the vehicular realm and the pedestrian realm. So these streets obviously intersect throughout the district, and this is a very important piece where all of these modes sort of converge on one another. So we've developed a series of intersection standards. This is where a typical meets a typical. And just 2 quick things to draw your attention to here, really prioritizing what we call perpendicular ped ramps to the crosswalks, proven to be the safest form for pedestrians. And then across the different typologies, modulating that curb radius, so where it's lower volumes of traffic, really tightening it up and making drivers be cognizant of the potential for pedestrian-car interaction as they make that movement. And then on the larger roads, widening that out for a little bit faster movement. So as we move to the open space, I like to just flash this for some context here. This is a hydrologic diagram of the hydrology that occurs out here. We've always seen, North Point, it has its superpower, if you will, or if its strategic advantage for redevelopment is it is adjacent to this natural and recreational asset of Big Creek and Big Creek Greenway. And so we've thought a lot about how do we embrace the Greenway, embrace the creek within this redevelopment where historically it's turned its back. And so I'll point your attention to the 2 thick dashed lines there, which are historic tributaries that were piped when the mall was redeveloped, thinking about how sort of the character of Big Creek can start to expand its way into the district and sort of define the aesthetic and the experiential value that's created out of the redevelopment. So this is the open space diagram. The thin green lines are trails. The larger aggregates of green are parks or expanded open spaces. And you can see, if I just sort of flip back and forth here, you can see how those overlay on that hydrologic diagram. One thing we did was we looked at the feasibility of daylighting these historic streams, one of which did show some promise for being a feasible day-lit scenario. But also looked at sort of spreading them out so they start to subdivide the district into these sub-areas and with an open space that sort of anchors each sub-district and become that sort of center point similar to Town Center out front here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but we did advance these open spaces to a level of detail really to show kind of what's possible by taking some of this land and developing it as a park as opposed to a revenue-generating land use. And so really incorporating a lot of active, exciting, dynamic programming that will bring people there and really serve as a catalyst for the development that may occur along the edges. So that may include event lawns with performance spaces, urban plazas where food trucks can pull up, adventure playgrounds for kids and families, and then integrating that stormwater component in it with a series of bioswales that all go down to a detention basin, which this park in this location supplants an existing detention basin. And then the tributary park, as I mentioned, one of those streams is only about 10 feet below finished grade. So looking at how we might be able to reveal that to create a new waterfront within the district. And we looked at this by preserving the Encore Commons office development and showing how it can really expand off of their existing open space, which is tenant amenity, and really become a broader amenity for the entire district. And then last is the redevelopment scenario. So this diagram just shows a general overlay of kind of two levels of density that are each mixed use, though the blue, which is lower density, trends more towards residential, where the brown is true mixed use development. So within each of these areas, we assigned a prototypical block size. This is based on development efficiency, constructability, and then tested those with a variety of uses, a variety of building forms, and a variety of parking scenarios to understand kind of what would fit and start to explore what sort of that sweet spot might be across a variety of different development types. So this one shows anything from a combination of smaller condo-style buildings to a large residential building to freestanding retail. It also looks at taking that whole block and putting on a residential stacked on top of retail and wrapping parking. And then it looks at the viability of an office or a laboratory with the complementary retail and parking to support the daytime users there. And then as we step down to the character area B, the size of the block also shrinks to about 360 by 240, and really looking at a variety of townhome type developments with dedicated parking garages, individual parking spaces, to a combo of townhouse with double stacked townhouse and integrating a smaller bit of retail, thinking of just kind of what can be supported by that block itself, or an aggregation of three of these blocks down to the combination of townhouses and again, a condo-style residential building. And then finally, we'll look at a couple test fits here. So really, these are just designed to kind of show you what this kit of parts actually does over time. So this is the Mansell Crossing development, or a piece of it. Just to orient yourself, down at the bottom is the new-ish Barnes & Noble. You can see TJ Maxx and Macy's identified there. This is the location of the linear park that I showed earlier. So in phase one, kind of thinking of just keeping it within a smaller area there, putting in the linear park as this anchor, and then fronting that with a mix of uses. This is one of the areas that we identified as a potential cultural anchor as well at the head of that, of that linear park. Excuse me. And then in phase two, really continuing that down to the Greenway and continuing that mix of uses that flanks the open space. Excuse me. That must mean I've been talking for 15 minutes. And then the second one here to wrap it up, North Point Market Center. This is opposite the mall, Dave & Buster's and Target, among other retailers. So thinking more modestly in terms of the introduction of standalone retail, similar to what's out there now, but really having it front North Point, so it tucks that parking back behind, creates an active street along North Point, and then accounting for some of the loss in surface parking with one larger residential building with a stacked garage, as well as kind of an active open space that pulls the greenway into the district and starts to interact with the adjacent Dave and Buster's, or if that changes use to a brewery or whatever retail might be that could use that open space. And then as we think long-term and think about this connection to the south across Big Creek Greenway, connecting with Old Alabama Connector, sort of carving off some of that strip and replacing it with residential and mixed uses and expanding that open space to really anchor that development. So with that, I will open it up for questions and feedback, and thank you for your time.
Councilman Hypes?
Thank you for the presentation. It's very exciting. I look at the size of this, it's almost like its own separate little mini city. Because it's something that's being conceived sort of with a blank canvas of sorts, I'm curious about how bicycling is incorporated into this as sort of a future for our city, especially in this somewhat mini city over here. Tell me about how you're going to have bikes and bicycling incorporated into this project. I heard something about the 8-foot wide path or a 12-foot wide path, but elaborate, then I've got some follow-up questions.
Yeah, so all four, I mentioned that we had 4 street typologies. Those go, the largest is what we call the boulevard. The boulevard does have a dedicated bike lane that is raised above the curb, but is separate from a 12-foot shared use path that's adjacent to it. And there's a thin strip that's sometimes planted, sometimes paved for some interconnectivity, so you can kind of jump on or off. One thing that we heard in speaking with stakeholders is that there's a large family biking contingent. And so we didn't want to have everything on street as a protected bike lane as one might use for commuting, but to also offer sort of a secondary experience with the shared use path where riders of different abilities could ride together and intermix with pedestrians, similar to kind of an urban trail. And so each of those 4 typologies, aside from actually all 4 street typologies have some sort of bike infrastructure, which creates a network. So the orange lines essentially that you see on this plan are all bikeable to some extent or another.
So I'm on the street typologies street network.
Right.
And I can see sidewalk, tree pit, parking, travel lane, et cetera. Which of these would be for biking?
The 12-foot shared use path in this case.
So what we're contemplating then is out of whatever amount of pavement, land, et cetera, that we're going to dedicate to pedestrian cars and bikes, the bikes are going to share it with the pedestrians.
In this typology, okay. Yes. The Esplanade typology, there's a dedicated bike lane, and so it provides that macro connectivity, whereas these would be sort of smaller streets within those super blocks that are shown in the overall plan.
So I see it says in our staff report for the last 8 months, you've been working with stakeholders. Has Bike Alpharetta been part of that?
They have, yes. That's
okay.
What led to moving that dedicated bike lane on the boulevard typology above the curb.
Okay. Well, as long as you got Bike Alpharetta involved, that gives me some comfort. I view this as an opportunity to be a very forward-thinking area of town, and following a lot of urban sites on X and other places, the conversion is toward the direction of bikes and pedestrians and away from vehicles. And if we're going to create something, I'd like it to be forward-thinking and not old-school thinking. Yeah. So that's my question. So.
Any other questions? Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you for being here tonight. I'd like to draw your attention to the red line that goes directly through the existing mall. That's a corridor, a road that you propose in a future development? going-
Yes, yeah.
So it would connect at the top end. Help me understand where we are there.
That is, one of them is Davis Drive. Pete, do you remember what street that is? I'm blanking on the name currently. So there's Davis Drive and there is, so it says 2 downtown via Highway 9.
No, it's
Maxwell,
Maxwell.
thank you. Yeah, Maxwell Road. So it's Maxwell Road, and then really the alignment within the district itself is flexible. So we're showing it as a straight shot to create that grid network. Obviously, with a mall redevelopment, they may move it here or there. And then as it leaves the district to the south, it connects to Old Alabama Connector.
Okay, so what would be doing is proposing a bridge over Big Creek Greenway or a long
That's
bridge sort of thing. And how adaptable is this plan depending on future progress? If the mall were to go away or whatever and other things come in there, how adaptable is that grid system in the mall area?
Yeah, I'd say infinitely adaptable. I think really what's important that they meet are the connections out. And really, we looked at, okay, you have Maxwell Road, and this is an idea that actually was put forth first by True North and MARTA in their BRT station area plan that we picked up on and then continued through. And so they show, within the mall site, they show a slightly different alignment than we do. But really, it's kind of where those terminus connect outside of the district that's most important, and then depending on what land use they're looking at or specific mix of land uses, then really it has flexibility to go wherever.
Okay. And then one last question, and the linear park and tributary park, you had mentioned that those streams would see the light of day or daylight. So is there currently pipe streams going underneath that? So you're wanting to raise all that back up and expose?
Right, there's two streams. So the one at the Point Park, which is daylighted down there to the east of the mall site, and it is roughly 25 feet below grade. So in order to daylight that, you would need like a 60-foot wide, 75-foot wide space dedicated to it.
The Echo Park.
Yeah, which is just kind of a non-starter because that takes up so much real estate. The one that's running that we identify as Tributary Park, it's only about 10 feet below grade in its max depth. And so really you could do that with 40 to 60 feet right of way, have comfortable slopes down that could either be vegetated or staired or amphitheatered or ramped.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Any other questions? Thanks, sir.
Thank you all.
So that'll wrap up the work session. There is no business item attached to this. This is just for information, for City Council to have an opportunity to hear what's being proposed and us to consider and hear feedback from the public. So we'll move on next to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is the City Council meeting minutes from the meeting of February 24th, 2025. Is there anyone on council that would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
Not for this item, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to speak on this item, now is your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Motion to approve?
I have a motion by Councilman Hyde, second by Councilman Mitchell, I believe, by Hare. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. So now we'll move on to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. We have Ms. Tracy with us this evening. If you don't
Yes.
mind, would you mind reading the public hearing procedures?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, glad to be here with you this evening. So I'm not going to read the procedures that you're used to hearing. This one is a little bit different. You're here tonight to hear the consideration of an appeal of the finance director's written decision of Applied Research Associates, Inc.'s protest of an award under RFP 25-103. This is how the hearing will proceed this evening. Each side will have 10 minutes to present. We're going to begin by having Mr. Lagerbloom introduce this item and how it came to be in front of you all. The appellant's representative, who I believe is here, will then have 10 minutes to present his argument. He also may choose to reserve time for rebuttal if he so chooses. City staff will then have the opportunity to use their 10 minutes. We'll then have any rebuttal time that the appellant wishes to offer. We can also call for public comment at the conclusion of the hearing, and then we will be asking the city council to render a decision on this appeal this evening.
Okay.
Any questions from council or from the appellant? You can come forward if you like. And we'll start by having Mr. Lagerbloom set the stage.
Excellent. Mayor and Council, I'll take just a couple minutes tonight to let you know why we're here in this circumstance. We did an RFP process in 2024 for a pavement condition assessment, and it traveled as a normal procurement. We had several people respond to the bid. We ended up awarding a contract to a company at just shy of $40,000 and move forward with the work. We did receive a protest from Applied Research Associates. It was just delivered to the city after the window to deliver a protest had closed. And so the finance department responded to that and indicated that the protest was not received in a timely basis, and therefore the protest was denied. This is an appeal of that decision of the finance director, who said it arrived after the time period in which it could. You might hear some things tonight that would suggest that there's talk about the type of equipment used or the type of technology or the cost of the project. Any of those things have not been evaluated by staff. We simply evaluated the protest on a timeliness basis. And I would ask you to keep you in that focus tonight, because the decision you're going to be asked to make at the end of this is whether or not we made the right decision and right interpretation of the procurement code as it relates to timeliness. And I believe we did. I will conclude my remarks at this point and just kind of set that stage. I would like to introduce Mr. Harris from staff's perspective first before we hear from Applied Research Associates. I want him to be able to put into the record the letter that he responded with denying the protest, and just give the couple of dates so that we have them for the record, and then we will be satisfied with our presentation at this point and reserve any time for rebuttal.
Is that it? I'm going to hand these out and enter this letter into the record. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tom Harris, Director of Finance. What is being entered into the record is a letter that I signed dated December 30th, 2024, after discussing with legal counsel, and the letter goes forward and explains the dates of why the protest is being denied. Actually, we rejected in that letter Applied Research Associates, Inc.'s award protest, as well as their request for stay for RFP 25-103. As it starts off in the letter, you'll see on December 20th, 2024 was the day that we received the protest from Applied Research Inc. We, the date that, in our opinion, triggers everything is the November 20th notice of award to Spencer Consulting. And that is the date that we awarded that, and we uploaded that, that notice of award to our city's bonfire procurement portal, which was the same by RFP number, the same place where all the RFP respondents and our original RFP went out, and their proposals and receipts and all the questions and answers through that whole procurement process all are entered into bonfire. So that is the information flow. Everything goes to bonfire. So on that date, we did give that notice of award. So following our procurement code, there's a 7-day protest period. And then in the advice of legal, adding 3 days because of state law. I'm not the expert at this part, but the 3 days of state law that we have to respond to public records request, and adding that conservatively to the 7 days, 3 days being business days, and then 7 calendar days per our code, gives 10 days. So that date would be December 2nd, 24. And as you can tell from December 20th, 2024, that's 17 days after the period of the limit, or the protest period expires on 12/2/24, and the 12/20/24 notice from the protester is well past that by 17 days. That's it.
And Mr. Mayor, with that, we will wait for questions or offer any rebuttal after we hear from the attorney for the firm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I also have some packets here for you all to consider as well. We filed a number of big, brief documents, and I just want to give you a small snippet of some of the most relevant items here. The top of this is actually the letter that we filed in response to Mr. Harris's denial of the protest as being untimely. So my name is Danny Selos, and I represent Applied Research Associates here. As has been announced, they submitted a proposal in response to RFP 25-103, which involves pavement analysis and mapping. I'm not going to get into details because that's way beyond my knowledge here. But I will say it's an important RFP because it deals with the mapping of all the roads throughout the entire city, and then an analysis of the condition of those roads, and then a plan and a timeline about when those roads should be repaired, and the different steps that need to be taken. So it is an important RFP that, although we're not considering the merits tonight, we would like you all to reconsider Mr. Harris' decision so that we can have a consideration on the merits of our protest towards this RFP. As Mr. Harris said, the basis of the denial of our appeal was that we knew or should have known about the award on November 20th when it was posted to the online portal. And our argument to that is very simply that that does not comport with due process, which is one of the fundamental tenets of this country, is that you're entitled to due process, you're entitled to reasonable notice under the circumstances of a decision that's going to be rendered, especially if it's going to be an adverse decision to your interest. We made a timely proposal, submitted it through the portal, and as reasonably one would expect, we assumed that we would have received something either in writing or maybe by email from the city letting us know when the award was made, but that wasn't done. Unfortunately, we only became aware of that via calls to the city on December 6th, had a phone call to the procurement office. We were notified that on December 9th that it had been awarded, and that's when we immediately did the public information request, which the city, Mr. Harris referred to as getting the documents within 3 days, the Open Records Act. Once we got those documents, we filed our appeal timely once we actually got the documents. And that's important because we don't have any idea what the basis of the appeal is going to be unless and until we receive the documents. We could get the documents for the proposal that was accepted and determine that there is no basis to file an appeal, or we can get those documents and we can determine there is a reason to file an appeal, and then we can file our appeal from there. And so that's important to keep in mind, just knowing, first of all, that an award has been given through the portal doesn't give us any sort of idea if we have a basis to file an appeal or not, or to protest that award. Now, importantly here, for the posting to the award, there's nothing in this particular RFP, and there's nothing in the city's policy manual for procurement that says that an award will be only announced by posting it through this portal system. It's just silent on that issue. Instead, the policy, what it does say is that the proposer that's actually chosen is going to be notified in writing, but it doesn't say anything about how they're going to notify the proposers that lose. That's on page 18 of the policy manual, which is included with this package of materials here. And also, in the RFP, it indicates here that the proposers, once you've submitted your proposal into the system, that you're going to get an email confirmation once it's uploaded. That is in the actual RFP, the portions of which are also included in this packet here. That's important because clearly the city has a means to notify people who have submitted proposals that their proposal has been accepted, so why can't the city likewise then provide notice, at least through email, when there's been an award for a proposal that someone has submitted a proposal for? Also included in the RFP is a request that the proposers give a number of specific information, including various contact individuals and email addresses as well. So you have to do that as part of this proposal, which our client did, and therefore there was ample opportunity for the city to take that information and provide us notice via email or mail so that we would have known, rather than just guessing, when the proposal would have been awarded through the online portal system. And again, as we mentioned, even once it's posted, there's not sufficient info available to submit a protest. I included for y'all's consideration, in case you have not, if you're not familiar with the system, but the last three tabs here, the yellow tab is what it looks like when you go into the system on the Open Public Opportunities tab. Then there's a second tab where it says Past Public Opportunities. An example of the current listings are at the blue tab. And in the purple tab, if you go to the Past Public Opportunities and you click on the View Opportunity button over on the side, you can then go to a specific RFP, which is what this purple one is, and this is actually the RFP for this particular project, and it gives you the information. But even as you go through here, and you see down on the third page of that one, it says that it was awarded November 20th, 24, and it's got a button for View Award. When you click that, it doesn't have anything there. So all you know is that an award was approved, but you don't know what the basis of that was and if you have a legitimate basis to file a protest. So in sum, I appreciate y'all's time this evening, but I believe that just by posting something, an award, a notice that something has been awarded doesn't comply with the objectives and purpose of the procurement policy, which is also in your package. This is at page 4 of the procurement policy. Some of those objectives are to maximize open and fair competition, to enhance public confidence in the city's procurement, and to promote fair and ethical treatment of all suppliers of goods and services. How can one have confidence in the procurement process if the people who don't win an award don't have a method to timely challenge that award? Because essentially, you'd have to be checking that website every single day, not knowing when an award was going to be issued, and then happen to hit that website on the day that it's been awarded, and then do your open records request. And assuming you get the documents back in 3 days, which doesn't always happen, then you can have a chance to timely file your appeal. All we are asking is that we have a fair shake to have our protest considered on the merits. That's all we're asking for here. So we're just simply asking for you all to reverse the decision on the timeliness so that Mr. Harris can consider the merits of our original protest. And with that, I will take any questions that you all may have and reserve the rest of my time for rebuttal.
Do we have any questions? Councilman Heights?
I'm trying to follow the chronology here.
Sure.
And I'm trying to go through here, getting down the operative dates. And I see it's in the letter that the time frame should be measured from November 25 is what's being asserted.
That's according to the city, yes.
That's what's being asserted.
Correct.
And then The next date I wrote down, but I didn't, as I was trying to move quickly, and I wrote down the date without why I wrote down the date. December 2nd was what? Something happened on December 2nd?
December 6th was when my client called the city's procurement office and spoke with a representative who, and left, they sent an email, and then they got a response on the 9th indicating that the award had been made, and here's a summary of the scoring for it. And then that's what triggered, on December 9th, was what triggered my client to then inquire through the Open Records Act to get the actual award that was awarded.
So your client learned about the award on December 9th?
Well, we learned of the award on December 9th, but we didn't actually become aware of the basis for our protest until I believe it was December 23rd, because that's when they got,
Well, you got...
no, excuse me, December 13th, because that's when they got the documents through the Open Records Act request.
So this was posted on Bonfire on November 25?
20th.
November.
They came up with the extra 3 business days. I believe May the 20th might have been a Friday, and then they tacked on 2 weekends plus the business days to respond.
So I heard what you said about not having, you didn't think it's appropriate to check every day or multiple times a day. So what's going on between November 20th and December 9th? Or
Well,
what's
December 6th.
Pardon?
December 6th. That's when we definitely sent an email on December 6th between that time. Now, I can't speak between what happened between November 20th and December 6th, other than there's Thanksgiving. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, as far as I know, December 6th is there was an email to the city representative. Now, whether there was phone calls between the 20th and the 6th, I don't know.
So there was a request to find out what was going on the 6th.
And this is actually attached to the package here. You'll see this was an exhibit K to the appeal, and you see here on December 6th, an email Friday, Mrs. Rucker, would it be possible to receive an update on the status of the reference City of Alpharetta solicitation? Thank you in advance. Then on Monday, Ms. Rucker responds, hi Gary, due to the cost, highest scoring firm was awarded. Here is attached to the scoring sheet for review.
So I heard everything you had to say.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm interested in getting this right for everybody's benefit. But I understand you don't want to check Bonfire multiple times a day or every day, but if it was posted on December 20th, November 20th, I misspoke. Mm-hmm. Why even the need to send an email request on December 6th? It was on Bonfire the whole time.
There's nothing in the RFP that says you need to monitor Bonfire, because that's how we're going to notify everybody that there's been an award. That's the issue here. There's nothing in the RFP saying that. There's nothing in the policy that says that. And so if we are going to measure our time to file a protest from when it's posted to Bonfire, that needs to be in the RFP, or it should be in the policy.
So I guess my appellate argument or question would be, how long should a government entity wait before somebody decides to make an inquiry or get around to checking Bonfire? I mean, should we hold up our progress with doing, I don't know the answer to that.
No, I'll tell you the answer to that. The answer to that is when you file your application through Bonfire, you get an email confirmation that gives you notice and confirmation that your proposal has been accepted. So all you have to do is when you post that an award has been made on Bonfire, you should correspondingly send out an email notification to all the people who have submitted their proposals. That way they're put of notice that, hey, something's been uploaded to Bonfire, you need to go take a look at it. It's no different than when you're in court.
Mr. Mayor, I do need to bring your attention that we're about a minute over time right now, but if the council wants to continue hearing from the appellant, we can extend time with...
Does Q&A eat up his time?
It does. I mean, it's part of the presentation, but...
Okay, I don't want to monopolize everybody else's time here. I apologize. So.
I believe you're an attorney, correct, Mr. Hipes?
Yes, I've done a little bit of that.
So you understand the e-filing system and how it works. When you're in a court, in a litigation
Excuse me,
system,
sir.
Yes, sir.
As she mentioned, we've already run over time.
Okay.
So
If y'all want to, the council can extend
I
time
know,
if you would like.
but I had to interrupt him so I can ask council if that is what they would prefer to do.
I would love to hear what he was going to say.
Everybody fine with that? 5 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you. No disrespect, I was just trying to finish answering this question.
You're just doing your job,
Thank
I
you.
understand.
And so, in Georgia, when you have a litigation case, you get served with process personally, generally, right? And after that, you have a certain amount of time that you have to file your answer. And if you don't file your answer, you don't make an appearance in the court case, you're deemed to have waived further notice. So then you're not going to get notice of any hearings or anything else that happens in that case. But if you do file an answer, you're entitled to further notice about what's happening in that case. And in Georgia, they've set up an e-filing system where any attorney that's made an appearance in that case gets an email notification every single time something is filed into the case. That's sufficient notice under law. If you don't pay attention to your email, that's your problem. But you at least get an email notification that says something was filed, you need to look at it. And here, you get an email notification when you submit your proposal. So I would suggest that it's a very simple thing. All you have to do is give them an email notification when an award is posted, and that puts somebody on notice. I need to go look at the bonfire system and see if I need to file an appeal or I need to go get through the Open Records Act these documents. But we don't have any way to notice that because we don't get an email, even though the bonfire system gives you an email to begin with. And even though the city is giving written notice, according to the policy to the recipient who wins the award, but for whatever reason, the city is not requiring also that you get at least email notification, much less written notification, that an award has been rendered against you. And that's basically the crux of the position. So that's how you fix that issue. Any other questions?
Councilman Mitchell?
Just one simple question. So you applied, or your group applied for the award through the bonfire system?
That is my understanding, yes. That's how it works.
And you searched the bonfire system in other cities and whatever for awards that will be given, correct?
Well, I'm not sure what my client did. I mean, I'm here on behalf of them for the protest and the appeal. So,
Okay. So it would seem, a deduction I would make is if you applied through the bonfire system, that's the system you would check for the results of it. It would seem logical to me to do that. Why would your person who's applying for these things not just go back to bonfire to check?
well, I mean, this is a global company that does all kinds of stuff just beyond these transportation issues. So I can't speak for what this particular individual did or did not do prior to when they emailed on December 6th. But again, this goes back to a due process issue. So whether or not you're taking sufficient steps has nothing to do with due process. It's about the government giving you notice, reasonable under the circumstances, that something's going to happen or that your rights are triggered and you need to do something, not just, well, it may get posted to bonfire eventually and that's going to trigger the 7 days, so you better just check every day or as much as you want to check. There's a different argument there. This is about due process, that a government should give somebody proper notice if they're going to say, well, you only have 7 days to file the appeal. And it's also 7 days from when you knew or should have known. So then you get into the argument of, well, when should we have known? Obviously, we should know once we get the documents from the Open Records Act, and then we determine if there's a basis to even file an appeal to begin with.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
Councilman Will?
Thanks, I appreciate it. So we're not arguing the fact that you filed your appeal late. We're arguing the fact that you believe that the process is insufficient to give you the ability to file your appeal on time. Is that a fair statement?
That's
Mr. Mayor, we are at the conclusion of 15 minutes now.
That's not correct, but it's fine.
Everyone satisfied that we've gotten sufficient answers? How many minutes? I'm not worried about how long it takes you. I'm worried about how long it takes him. I don't know. 2 minutes?
That's up to the discretion of council.
That's why I'm asking council. Yes. 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll be quick. You mentioned due process in government. Does the same principles apply to business transactions? As far
Well,
as due process?
if you have a contract, you can put in the contract whatever language you would like to.
But applying those standards of government would also apply to business. Would you not agree with that?
I'm sorry?
It would not. What you're suggesting applying to government as far as due process would also apply to business RFPs, right?
Well, individual companies can do how they choose, and they can put whatever requirements they want to, but this is a different level for government. Government's a fundamental principle of this country that due process applies to government.
Okay, so it applies to business, because I do RFPs all the time, and, you know, it's usually the person looking to get business that is proactive in following up on those types of things, but that's just common business practice. You've had access, or your client has had access to the bonfire system, obviously. So is the grievance about just the ability that you didn't get email notification and you couldn't properly file an appeal timely? Or is it more than that? Are you grieving the award to a different bidder?
Well, absolutely. But we haven't even had the opportunity to have that decided on the merits because of this timeliness threshold issue that was decided. And back to Councilman Will's point is that we do disagree. We believe that ours was timely filed, and we disagree with how the dates were calculated in here. So,
Now, I would just say, and you can comment on this, I don't view this as a legal process. You made reference to the way court proceedings are, and I'll state up front, I'm not an attorney like Councilman Hypes, but you know, in business, when you're doing, you know, RFP responses and things and bidding on contracts, legal processes don't apply to that process the way you are referring to it in a court of law. So I just,
Mr. Mayor, that's the conclusion
you.
of those 2 minutes.
thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Ms.
We kn-
Tracy?
We now have time for city staff to make their presentation. There's approximately 12 and a half minutes remaining for them if you're extending the same amount of time.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to handle that, and I promise you it won't take 12 and a half minutes. I'd just like to bring you back to where we started with this. We've heard a lot tonight of a lot of decisions that Applied Research Associates has concluded on behalf of themselves. They've decided what reasonable is. They've decided what due process is. We have a process that's in place that works through Bonfire. It works every day of the week. Firms that are looking to receive our work check it frequently, if not multiple times a day. So the fact that they would go 2 weeks without even checking the system fails to me that was an opportunity they had that they didn't avail themselves to. So I'll just conclude by saying we do rely upon the dates. We believe they're calculated correctly. We believe our process is fair. We believe it was applied appropriately in this circumstance, and that the protest that was ultimately filed was not timely. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
If, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to see if there's any public comment on this item, now would be the time.
Okay. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not for this item, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion this evening to deny the request for proposals 25-10 protest of award with Applied Research Associates, Inc. as presented this evening.
second?
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel to deny, and a second by Councilman Dorito. Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Councilman Hypes.
I think council raised some interesting points, but whether or not they're interesting as adjusted to these particular facts, I'm focused on the chronology. And, you know, if the inquiry had been made on November 27th and it was 1 day late, you know, I would find his comments about checking every day and there's no email notification of not winning the award to be of some interest. But to have gone 16 days without checking the bonfire, when that seems to be the prevalent platform used by a lot of government entities, as I do a little research over here, you know, I'm sitting here in this, you know, trying to weigh this out. Really want to get it right for you guys, who came up to the podium, and for the city. But I'm having a hard time if I haven't heard, to use your analogy, if I've submitted something that's like for an emergency relief or TRO, if I haven't heard from the judge, then I'm checking after a period of time. How long? I don't know. But 16 days with a 7-day appeal period seems like sort of a long time between the award being put on bonfire and the first inquiry request being made by email, which could have been done on bonfire, just to check bonfire instead of sending an email. So, if you want to know what the deciding factor was for me, I just wanted to share that with you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to deny, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And the motion to deny does pass unanimously. So that'll wrap up the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. And we'll move on to new business. First item under new business is the task order for fiscal year 2025 Stormwater Pipelining Services SpinCast. Director Sisevich, you have the floor.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is the pipelining utilizing SpinCast, which is on pipes larger than 36 inches in diameter. This is a on-call vendor, as we call it. On March 15th of 2021, we went into contract with this firm to perform spin casting, and they are competitive rates that has been attached in the document. So,
Thanks, sir. Do we have any questions for Director Sisevich? Councilman Hipes.
Maybe too much coffee tonight, Mr. Mayor. I'm always curious when you bring these items forward, how many linear feet do we have or miles of stormwater?
I wish you would have asked me that before I left my office.
But it's always more fun just to put you on the spot, Director Pete. So,
Significant.
and if I read this right, this is 1,800 linear feet that we're going to get done for over $500,000?
Correct.
How does that compare in prior years? For the same bang for the buck, are we regressing or progressing in terms of linear feet per dollar?
It's basically staying the same. They're holding the pricing for us.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Pete. Quick question. We've been doing the pipe relining for quite some time. When do we evaluate the pipes and say, okay, we've done it enough on these pipes, they need to be redone or put in new pipes?
So we inspect through our consultant 20% of our stormwater system every year. So we'll get updated every year. We get new updates, and then we get new pipes that need to be lined based off of those inspections.
That need to be lined, but how do we inspect the integrity of the pipe?
So we have visual. If they're, we have some.
I know we have the robot that goes.
We've got the robot as well. So we have the camera and we got the visual. Our 72-inch pipes we're able to walk through.
Okay, so that's being done throughout all of our linear pipes?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item for the 2025 Stormwater Pipelining Services, now is your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve a task order for the award of funds in the amount not to exceed $564,687.90 to Utility Asset Management, Inc. from stormwater pipelining through the city pursuant to the August 18, 2021 on-call storm pipelining services contract by and between Utility Asset Management, Inc. and the City of Alpharetta, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Dorito, second by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate you keeping everything working. Memorandum of Understanding is the next item between Gwinnett Technical College, Police Department. Director Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Requesting your approval for an MOU between us and the Technical College System of Georgia on behalf of Gwinnett Tech and our city, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. Honestly, we have a great partnership with Gwinnett Tech and have for several years now, and this is just a re-upping our MOU with them. But anytime there's any kind of incident on their campus, we of course respond and work together to deal with whatever issues may arise, which thankfully is not much. So this is just an official recognition of that and the partnership we have with them.
Do we have any questions for Director Robinson? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item, now is your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Technical College System of Georgia by and behalf of the Gwinnett Technical College and the city to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
We have a motion by Councilman Wills, second by Councilman Hypes. Any discussion, gentlemen? All those in favor of the motion to approve as outlined by Councilman Will, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously as well. So we'll move on to the agreement between the City of Alpharetta and ZK Teco for Union Hill overflow parking. Director Rogers, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As always, it's a pleasure to be here. We are seeking an agreement to use the Public Safety Director's technical term. We're trying to re-upping the agreement between the City of Alpharetta and ZK Teco for the Union Hill overflow parking for permitted events only. This is the second year of this agreement. It worked out really well. ZK Teco is a great business to work with, and they have approved this as well. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. Well, I will tell you that it's the events like Home by Dark. I think there's 8 of those this year. Grill Fest, Chili Cook-Off, Shamrock and for a Cure, and several other scheduled events.
Excellent. Any other questions for Director Rogers? Councilman Will.
Morgan, why do we specifically say permitted events versus whatever else?
Because if there's not a permitted event, then they have their gates locked, and so you can't use it. So we give them notice that an event is coming, and they know that, and then they allow us to use it for those events.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak about this memorandum of understanding, now is your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor. Make a motion that council approve the agreement between the City of Alpharetta and ZK Teco for parking during permitted events at Union Hill Park and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Councilman Will. Any discussion, gentlemen? All those in favor, please vote yes. Councilman Hypes? And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the next item, which is premise usage agreement with Alpharetta First United Methodist Church for 2025 Taste of Alpharetta parking. Director Rogers, once again, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. This is another re-upping of a parking agreement that we have with the Alpharetta First Methodist Church for the Taste of Alpharetta on May 8th of 2005. This is simply allowing us to use their parking lot on the Cummings Street during the Taste of Alpharetta. This has been an ongoing agreement that we've had annually with the church. It's a good agreement, and we would encourage the approval. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Director Rogers on this item? Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, public comment cards?
We have none, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come speak on this item, now is your chance. Seeing no one, close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, make a motion, the council approve the premises usage agreement between the City of Alpharetta and Alpharetta First Methodist Church, Inc., permitting the use of the Cumming Street parking lot for the 2025 Taste of Alpharetta, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Motion by Councilman Heitz, second by Councilman Will, to approve the premise usage agreement as outlined in the motion. Any discussion? Councilman Heitz.
Yeah, I was going to save discussion for this one to group the last two motions together. You know, sometimes we take for granted what great corporate citizens and partners that we have because it just kind of happens a lot and happens seamlessly, but I don't think we should take it for granted. I think ZK Teco is doing us a great service by working with us to expand the capacity at Union Hill Park. And, you know, I want to thank them as a council member because what they're doing is helping all of our residents here. And I will say the same thing about Alpharetta Methodist Church, you know, that we really need that parking for these bigger events. And the fact that we have businesses and institutions that do this on a regular basis, I don't take it for granted, and I really, really do appreciate it. And hats off to the Rec and Parks Department for keeping those relationships alive.
If there's no other comments, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And it did pass unanimously by a hair. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the invitation to bid, 25-07, Mayfield Road Property Demolition Approval of Intergovernmental Agreement with the City of Milton. Director Rogers, you once again have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 2017, the City of Alpharetta and the City of Milton entered into a joint agreement to purchase a piece of property on Mayfield Road and make it a shared park, agreeing to share evenly the cost associated with that park. There were, at the time, 25 different buildings on that property when it was acquired, with the three largest being the three houses at Front Mayfield. Representatives from both cities met and determined that the buildings had become a public safety concern and should be demoed. Alpharetta took the lead and developed a scope of work for the demo and remediation of any health concerns such as lead paint or asbestos. An invitation to bid was released. We had 13 firms submitted bids. Eagle Demo and Environmental was the lowest at $110,109. The amount will be evenly split between Alpharetta and the City of Milton, or $55,054.50 per city. This item is on the City of Milton City Council agenda tonight for approval, and the agreement, of course, is dependent on the City of Milton approving this as it would be for us to approve it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Director Rogers? Councilman Knight.
Are we appropriating the 55,000 or the 110?
Actually, we had put I think it's $120 in our budget, assuming that it was going to be more costly. So we have that appropriated already, and once we pay for it, then we will get the $55,000 back.
Yeah, so there'll be a motion coming. Is the motion for 110, and then we get reimbursed later, or is the motion for the 55?
The motion includes the approving the contract at 110, and also an IGA with Milton specific about this, that they owe us $55,000 and some odd dollars.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion that council approve the award of a contract for invitation to bid 25-007 Eagle Demolition and Environmental for the demolition of the Mayfield Road property in an amount not to exceed $110,109, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents, including the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Milton, for them to reimburse their share.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hypes, second by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel, and that was to approve the item, the motion as outlined by Councilman Hypes. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. It does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the final business item, which is resolution support of Brookside multi-use trail and funding opportunities. Ms. Tracy, if you'll read the resolution, then I'll turn the floor over.
I thought I had it. Hold on. I got it.
Got it?
Yeah. This is consideration of adoption of a resolution in support of the application to pursue funding the Brookside Multi-Use Trail Project, directing the city administrator to pursue partnerships, grant opportunities, and federal congressionally directed spending, and with authorization for the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Mr. Lagerblum?
Yes, sir. So I'll see if I can take this one tonight. This has been before you before. We proposed this for a congressionally directed spend about a year ago, and you probably recall there was a bridge from the Brookside property over to the Greenway, traveling through the wetlands over there. We were not successful when we made that application before. If you'd asked me, were we going to get any requests to even submit anything this year with what we know is going on in Washington, I would be the first to tell you I'm not sure that there's going to be any congressionally directed spending dollars available. However, when members of Congress reach out to you and invite you to make application for one of these types of projects, and we have had 2 of those requests come, we said, you know, we don't have a member of Congress come and say, well, you really should apply, and we say, no, not really that interested. That's why this one made it to the agenda today, is because the deadline to apply is before our next meeting. What you would be doing by passing this resolution is just reaffirming that you support this project as you did a year ago and direct us to seek funding opportunities. We would then get the application packet filed with both Representative McCormick and Senator Ossoff, and we would see what happens and what transpires in Washington. It's one of those things where if there happens to be dollars available and if they happen to be in a position to be invested in Alpharetta, we should be in line, at least to consider it, because this was a fairly significant ask. This wasn't one of the smallers that we have done. But if there's not any funding, or if funding dries up as the budget is being built in Washington and these are no longer included, the effect of this resolution will not be anything other than we just simply aren't in receipt of anything on the back end. So that's all this does tonight, is say, yep, go ahead, you can move forward with making the application that the 2 members have asked us to make, and we would do that on a timely basis. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Lagerblum? Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item, now is your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion this evening to approve the resolution, support of Brookside multi-use trail and funding opportunities as presented this evening.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel, and a second by Councilman Will. Any discussion? I'll just note that I think this is a critical project for that whole corridor, especially with the redevelopment taking place over on Brookside Park. I think this is the piece that would really be a catalyst for the vision we have for that whole corridor through there. I'm not sure what the odds are that we'll be able to get it through Congress this time, but we do have support from both parties, and that speaks to how important this is to the city of Alpharetta and our economic well-being. So will all those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. So that'll wrap up the new business portion of tonight's meeting. We'll move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment cards?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have one public comment card this evening, and that is for Anita Friedman, if you'd like to come forward. Also, if there's anyone else that would like to speak for go ahead and come on up. Generally, we do try to limit comment to 3 minutes, and please address all of your comments to mayor and council. And if you would just state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Anita Friedman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for hearing us. I'm here on behalf of the Westside Commons Homeowners Association. We're a small condominium complex located directly across from Mayor's Bank Amphitheater on Encore Parkway. Here with one of our board members, and the reason that I wanted to come and speak tonight is to address an issue that we're having with the some of the things that have been going on with the Mayor's Bank Amphitheater concerts and the concert seasons in the past. And we're relatively new to the board, so we thought maybe we could work together with the city and see if we can resolve some of these. The first thing, as you can imagine, would be traffic. So our particular entrance is located on Encore Parkway, and it is not gated. And so as a result of that, and our condominium complex was actually built prior to the amphitheater being built. So we looked into options for doing that, but it is not feasible for us as a small homeowners association to put a gated, to make our community gated. So we, during concerts, we hire security to, to manage our entrance. But in the meanwhile, our owners pitch in and help out prior to security coming. And last year we spent, our homeowners association spent over $13,000 for the concerts from last year. So to make sure that somebody was there protecting our entrance. And so we're asking two things. We're just here to kind of state what the situation is and see how we can elicit the city's support. We don't know what the understanding was between the city and the amphitheater when it was first built about the neighboring communities. So I don't actually know what those, if there is any, or if there are any options for us to get perhaps traffic management support, security assistance. One of the things that we were thinking of was maybe painting, something in front of our entrance from the city might paint some kind of traffic box or put some system in place so that the traffic doesn't block our entrance. And while we're super excited to have the concerts across the street, we just want to make sure that we're making sure that we're behaving in the best interest of our homeowners. And then the second piece of this is some assistance with security at the entrance. So I don't know if any other communities have come forward with this issue, so I just thought I would leave it there and see if we can continue this dialogue. Our first concert, by the way, is April the 26th, so we're about a month away or so, a month and a half away.
Okay. So, and this is public comment. It's not really a back and forth. It's an opportunity for us to have a conversation with you, perhaps to follow up on this. We're aware of the issue. We just aren't familiar with any real resolutions. There's gratuity clause in the state constitution which we can't spend money on private property. And so it's not as easy as you might hope, but there might be something we can do with our public safety and public works department that could possibly help.
If I could just say one thing, I'm Priscilla Karen, also.
You've got 3 minutes if you want to give your name and address.
Biggest Priscilla Karen, 1955 Nocturne Drive, Unit 3306, and I'm the secretary on the board. Quickly, all I can think of. We got a microphone right there. Oh, okay. All I could think of is even if we could have a don't block the box in front of our neighborhood.
Okay.
We have videos where we can't get in, we can't get out, and that's the simplest thing I can think of.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yeah.
Director Sisevich, Director Robinson, if you all want to have a conversation, that's our Public Works and our Public Safety Director back there.
Thank you.
So we'll have them, there's certain steps we have to go through to do something like that, but that sounds like something that would be feasible.
We understand. We sent an email earlier today, so you should have that and some videos that we sent along with it. And just, our contact information is in that email, so please feel free to let us know. We're happy to meet on this in person and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
And Mr. Mayor, we are in receipt of that email and those videos that were just referenced, and we were talking about it earlier as a staff today, so we're, there's some things we can help you with. Just check with those two guys that the mayor mentioned, and some of that's, paint on the grounds is usually pretty easy. So I would stop with Pete first and then go to the chief.
All right, thank you.
Were there any other public comment cards?
That is all, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone else would like to come forward, now is your chance to do so. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Any reports? Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
Just want to shout out to Chief John Robinson and his group. We had the chili cook-off for public safety on Saturday. It was conflicting a little bit with some other events in the city. It was a new location and it had been rescheduled for a month, so I think we'd all agree maybe a combination of all those things turned into not as big a turnout as we'd like, but yet it was still a great event. A lot of community folks, a lot of local restaurant owners, as well as individuals that competed in it. I was not able to stay to the end, but I'm sure if you really want to know, we can get you, through the public records, a list of who the winners were.
Any other reports? Councilman Will.
Mr. Mayor, I have two reports tonight. The first one, I got a chance this week to participate in the Cultivate event at Innovation Academy right up here downtown Alpharetta, and they brought in, I think it was 80 or 90 people from the community to set up mock interviews and workshops for the kids in different areas. And I got a chance to do 6 mock interviews and 3 workshops on business. And I must tell you, the young adults at that school are some of the smartest people I have ever met. I was amazed. Microbiology, I want to study stem cells, I want to go into, poor countries and create clean water, and I want to, I was blown away. I almost felt like I wasn't qualified to interview some of these kids. They were really, really smart. So kudos to Innovation Academy. I think they're doing a great job over there. Loved going to the event. My second one, a little bit of a lower note here. I do want to just call out Detective Brian Smith. He was with Alpharetta for about 19 years, and he did pass away. And his funeral is tomorrow at First Methodist Church at 11 o'clock. He was with us a long time. I think he was well loved in the Alpharetta community. So 11 o'clock tomorrow, First Methodist Church, Detective Brian Smith.
Any other reports? So, Mr. Lagerbloom, do we have an executive session necessary?
We do, and it's going to be really quick. And then we do have one item, hopefully, to consider when we come out of executive session, as opposed to just coming and adjourning. But there will be real estate and an update on litigation.
All right. So do we have a motion to recess into executive session?
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion? All those in favor of recessing into executive session, please vote yes. And it is unanimous. We'll see you, gentlemen. Do we have a motion to reconvene? Have a motion by Councilman Will, second by Councilman Mitchell. We are reconvened. Mr. Lagerbloom, I believe we have an item that we need to bring forward.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do. We have to bring an item forward that we just discussed in executive session. It's an option agreement with the City of Milton for property at 13450 Cogburn Road. It was described in there as to what it does. If somebody would make the motion would be to approve and accept an option to purchase right-of-way for land along 13450 Cogburn Road, Milton, Georgia, for the Big Creek Greenway between the City of Milton and the City of Alpharetta, and with authorization for the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Mr. Lagerbloom, we did not vote on the reconvene motion. It was made and seconded, but not voted upon.
Okay, well, maybe let's throw a quick vote in then on the reconvene, and then I'll just say as stated.
Thank you. We did.
All those in favor of reconvening, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations, we are reconvened.
Thank you. That cleared up the voting.
For the purposes of just making the record make sense, this item is 13450 Cogburn Road, Milton, Georgia. I read what the motion would be just previously. If somebody would like to offer that as a motion tonight, that would conclude this item.
Calling for a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel. That was to approve the option agreement as outlined by Councilman, by City Administrator Chris Lagerbloom. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Now, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Mitchell and a second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Gentlemen, there are a few signatures over here.